This is my short play of the Eternal Strands. I have only played this game few hours, and the point here is to review the opening hours of this game, so you can get an idea if it looks interesting. Yellow Brick Games was founded by former Ubisoft and BioWare employees in 2020. The game is an action-adventure game looking to mix influences from games like Shadow of the Colossus, Dragon's Dogma, and the recent Legend of Zelda games. The game runs on Unreal Engine 5, and we have many of the hallmark features present, such as virtual shadow maps, lumen reflections, and global illumination. I'm not sure if nanite is used. The game doesn't strike as particularly high polygon. On the contrary, the art style suits well the sort of sculpted shapes the game has. It has all the usual upscalers, such as DLSS, FSR, XESS, and Unreal's own TSR. There is no frame generation, at least not for AMD users. A quick look at the performance sees my 7900 XTX running a solid 70 FPS in 4K with epic preset, and 100 plus at high preset. This was run at 67% scaling using TSR, or in other words, same scaling as quality mode in FSR. I am greatly reminded of the Torchlight games by the graphic style of the Eternal Strands. Yellow Brick has named recent Legend of Zelda games as inspiration, which do share a similar art style as well. A lot of the surfaces appear a sort of blurry texture-wise. Simple textures are used. There is no parallax mapping to fill each and every surface with minuscule detail. Rather, the surfaces appear smooth and textures simple and low contrast. This is likely a design decision to give the game its unique look, but I wonder if some element of extra detail could have been put in. Strands does have RPG elements, mostly in form of upgradable gear and skills, as well as dialogue options, although I don't know how much of a difference they make. The options are usually presented at the end of the dialogues, so they seemingly cannot steer the conversation. The game is made of areas or levels that take a moment to load. There are also day and night cycles that take place between load screens. It is not a dynamic cycle. In a Assassin's Creed style, you can climb on most surfaces in this game. Unfortunately, the animation is kind of clunky. It looks more like crawling. And you quickly find the invisible walls that confine you inside the given area and progress. Those walls are not even invisible, but rather look like force fields and make a noise as well. When you find a wooden crate or even a chest, you are usually rewarded with crafting materials. It's a sort of letdown, and those crafting materials are everywhere. If you're lucky, you might find a blueprint for some gear, but never the gear itself, or at least I never did in my short gameplay. Crafting materials can be used to not only upgrade your gear, but also upgrade your camp and the team members' facilities to unlock more higher level gear. Combat is rather generic action-adventure ordeal, with the usual light and heavy strikes, block and parry, as well as bow shooting. Timed parries and dodges with restraint in mashing the attack button is a great recipe for some memorable combat. However, the same clunky undertone can be felt here, as the heroine often takes off pulling a multiple strike combo just past the enemies, hitting nothing, and she doesn't block attacks coming from behind after derailing herself. The two magic skills available at the beginning are telekinesis and shooting ice. She can lift objects like stones and crates and hurl them at the enemies, or use them to solve environmental puzzles. I find it kind of interesting how we can toss these explosive flowers around causing fire to burst out. But then the fire spreads by itself, burning everything on its way, including our heroine. We can then try to put the fire out with our ice blast, but these chunks of ice will freeze the area around them and cause damage just as much. This creates the kind of unpredictable situations where good ideas turn bad at a moment's notice and a simple task turns into a frantic battle for survival. Oh, and there's those boss fights where you climb on these big enemies and hack away their armor to expose the soft bits and take them down. The climbing that looks like crawling, combined with janky camera movement, which lacks any sense of mass of the enemy, kind of made the whole experience stale. I think this is still a solid effort for a new studio, but at the same time, these people are veterans of big name studios and games. The clunky bits and the lack of that final coat of polish seem unfit for developers of such pedigree. Obviously, development time costs money, and they have to make the call at some point to just put it out and start recuperating their investment. But is it any good? It has narrowly failed to capture my interest, and I'm not feeling compelled or obsessed to continue playing it. And I do have other things to move on to, so my verdict is keep it for later.